Fatigue is when you lack the energy to do something, such as a run, like a 5k. However, there is other types of fatigue, such as mental fatigue. Some signs of people fatiguing can be tired, having a headache, muscle weaknesses, slow responses, and poor decision making. Fatigue can be influenced by numerous factors. For example, when you exercise, contracted muscle generate power and heat. This creates energy, and over time the contractions will become less powerful, meaning that less heat and power will be generated from your contractions. Therefore, the energy stocks inside the blood deplete, which will ultimately cause the body to fatigue, meaning exhaustion will eventually occur. Fatigue can also be affected by poor mental state of an individual. For example, if a person doesn't get enough sleep, fatigue may occur later on throughout the day. To recover from fatigue, an individual can have a really good sleep. During exercise, you can avoid muscle fatigue by having a warm-up and cool-down before and after sessions. This gradually increases the intensity you're working at, which means that the force needed to be generated by the muscles steadily increases. Another way for you to prevent fatigue is to have rest in between sessions. There are 4 types of fatigue, 3 physiological and 1 psychological. The 3 physiological fatigues are local, general and chronic. Local fatigue is when your body makes repeated contractions without recovery, therefore depleting the amount of power which a specific muscle can produce. General fatigue is when you physically feel weak after training. And finally, chronic fatigue is when your immune system has weakened from excessive or inadequate recovery. And finally, psychological fatigue is essentially how bad you want it. For example, you lack the energy to do something as you're bored or possibly mental stress. Because the ATP PC system is only active during the first 10 seconds of a race, it means that it's short duration. However, it has its benefits because it is used in maximal intensity exercises. The best example is a 100-meter sprinter at an elite level. The first few seconds of the race only depends on ATP. However, during the last 7 seconds of the race, the ATP PC is now active. The PC, which is phosphocreatine, resynthesizes the ATP to allow it to be the dominant energy system for the next 7 seconds. During exercise, the ATP and PC is depleted excessively. This is because the energy is used extremely quickly at a high intensity. At pre-exercise, the ATP-PC levels are at their highest because they haven't actually been put to use yet. However, as mentioned earlier, during the exercise, the ATP-PC levels deplete excessively, as well as rapidly. This means during the later stage of the 100 meter, e.g. around the 80 to 100 meter mark, it becomes extremely hard for the athletes as the ATP-PC levels are at their lowest. When the race finishes, your ATP-PC system will begin to resynthesize. When you rest, it begins to resynthesize. During the 100 meter sprint, lactic acid will build up in the muscles, which will cause them to ache, fatigue and tire. Because the ATP-PC system only lasts 10 seconds, and the graph depletion for 3 minutes, and the graph shows depletion for 3 minutes, the recovery time will be really quick. Lactic acid will be removed when the muscles stop contracting powerfully. However, when lactic acid is present in the muscles, it's better to walk it off and get used to it, which means so it leaves the muscles gradually. Just sitting there resting can still cause pain in the muscles. As mentioned before, performance will drop throughout the race as more energy is being used, which will lead to less powerful contractions. Carbon dioxide will also be present in the muscles, as this is an anaerobic progress. During moderate intensity exercise, the lactic acid system will be the dominant system. However, the fast glycolytic fibers will be recruited at the beginning of the exercise. As mentioned before, the lactic acid system is the dominant system, therefore the fuel comes from the glucose instead of phosphocreatine, like the ATP-PC system. This system is active for around 3 minutes before the aerobic system will take over from the lactic acid and become the dominant system. The PC depletion graph shows that the PC will be depleting the whole time the lactic acid system is active. Athletes may soda load before a race or have a glucose ingestion. However, glucose ingestion is more common in long-distance races such as half marathons and marathons. Soda loading is where the athletes drink baking soda to try and give them an advantage in a race. However, because certain individuals such as coaches believe it can reduce fatigue, the athlete may be able to perform for longer. This can be very dangerous because it can prevent the athlete from performing. Professionals believe that soda loading can reduce the acidic environment inside the body when performing intensely. When the acidity is too high, it can lead to serious health concerns. For example, if the heart, kidney and liver are overworked when the acidity is too high, this could lead to chronic heart conditions. As the name states, this is the lactic acid system, which pretty much guarantees there will be an accumulation of lactic acid. This lactic acid creates lactate and H+ ions. The H+ ions are the problem as these make the muscles more acidic, which creates pain in the muscles, which causes them fatigue. Because there are more H+ ions and a lactate build-up, this means the pH will increase. When an athlete is taking part in the 800 metres, the muscles will begin to ache as lactic acid builds up, especially towards the end of the race. That means the rate of performance will decrease. During submaximal exercise, the aerobic system will be the dominant energy system. This means that the slow-twitch fibres will be recruited, as the fibres will have low-powered contractions but can work for a long time, which will be necessary when this energy system is active, since it is used in events such as 5Ks, 10Ks and marathons. During an event, the glycogen will deplete whilst the athlete is performing, so does the glucose. In the fat-adapted glycogen depletion graph, it shows that over time the glycogen stores will deplete. This shows that the body is tiring and won't be performing as well as it was early in the race. One way to keep your glycogen stores high is by eating and drinking throughout the event. This will enable the athlete to perform at a high level for longer compared to not eating throughout an event. Another way that glycogen levels can work for as long as possible will be carbo loading before an event. This is beneficial for the participant because their glycogen stores will be maximised. Throughout the event, the body will be sweating, which means that water will be a waste product. This is bad for the performer as the blood is sent to the skin instead of the muscles, which means that the muscles will fatigue faster, as muscles are allowing thermoregulation to occur. Another waste product which becomes present is carbon dioxide. This is problematic for the performer as he will need to breathe in more oxygen to allow more carbon dioxide to be exhaled. As more carbon dioxide is in the lungs, there is less oxyhemoglobin being transported to the muscles. This is because carbon dioxide is binding with the hemoglobin to form carbohemoglobin. Carbon dioxide is also made and exerted from working muscles. Another way the body uses energy is through fat stores. It's sort of a backup energy system, but not as effective most of the time when performing anaerobically. It will be active, however. Competitors want to only use carbs for as long as possible, or stay as high as possible in their respiratory exchange ratio to make sure because the higher you're working in your respiratory exchange ratio, the more carbs you're using. As you can see from the table, the RER ratio is at 1. The performer is only using carbs, which is what they want to do for as long as possible. As the event progresses, the RER ratio will begin to drop, which means less carbs are being used as the main energy source, and fats will take over. As you can see from the table, when the performer's RER is at 0.7, he has depleted all of his carb stores and is now totally reliant on fatty stores. As his energy stores. When all glycogen stores have been depleted, athletes can hit the wall. This is when the fats become active. Calcium allows there to be an active binding site by removing the tropomyosin. When this happens, muscle contractions can occur, but when there isn't enough calcium present to form a cross bridge, contractions can't take place. If more H+ ions are present, the acidity will be higher, which means that the fast-twitch fibres' peak power will decrease. Impulses will be slower when you have less ions to be polarised or depolarised, and when this happens, the potassium and sodium will switch positions, but they will change back to get ready for the next impulse. If there isn't a good enough impulse, the impulse may not go through. Acetylcholine is a chemical which is secreted into the synaptic cleft. ACH allows electrical impulses to travel across the synapse when enough ACH travels across the presynaptic membrane and reaches the postsynaptic membrane, a muscular contraction would occur. Cholinesterase is an enzyme which breaks down ACH, and when this happens, would terminate the stimulation of the muscle. ACH does this by chemically breaking the compound in different compounds, and after this removing it from the nerve junction. There are several ways that you can reduce fatigue when performing anaerobically. As mentioned before, you can eat and drink during the race to replenish glycogen stores. Another way you can increase performance and reduce fat is by pre-cooling and carb loading. Pre-cooling is where you cool your body down to a race to drop the core temperatures, so when you're performing, your core temperature doesn't go too high, which can affect your performance. If the core temperature gets too high, the athlete may feel dizzy and sick. Carb loading is when you stop eating carbs a week before the event, such as a marathon, and continue to train to see how your body performs with low carbs. They won't react well and the body will not want to experience performing on low carbs again. A day after, 3 to 4 days after doing, a day after, you will spend the rest of the days, 3 to 4 days, eating as much carbs as possible, so you have the most amount of energy in the race.